Now that we have reviewed some concepts behind the style sheets, we are going to start creating our own style sheet. We have 5 types of style sheets which collectively determine the appearance of a web page. I have a picture of the CSS types and their hierarchical structure. At the bottom of this hierarchy, we have browser style, which defines the default layout of the items on a web document. The browser styles apply a few specific styles to the page, like adding solid circles to the navigation list items, displaying hypertext in blue, and displaying headings in a large bold font. The second type of a style sheet in this hierarchy is the user-defined styles, such as resolution, color, and etc. that can be set in the setting of a web browser. For example, I will open my web browser, and from this menu I will go to settings, and here from the setting we can change the appearance of the website. For example, we can set the theme of the website, web page, zoom, appearance, color, font, and some other settings. This is called user-defined CSS or style sheet. The next item in this hierarchy is the external style sheet. This is the most popular type, and it is recommended for big web pages with several elements. The next item is the embedded style sheets, and these are the ones that are defined inside the head tag of a web page, and it just impacts the elements that specific to a certain web page. And the last one is the inline style sheet, which is defined as an attribute of a particular element. Inline and embedded style sheets are not recommended because if changes are needed, all defined style sheets must be first located and then changed. It is obviously a time-consuming and inefficient task. The best way is to put all defined style sheets in an external file with CSS extension and then link that to the main HTML file inside the head element as a metadata. One important point about this hierarchy is that the higher level style sheets override the lower layers. For example, if there are both embedded and external style sheets for a particular element, the embedded style sheet, which lies at a higher level, will have precedence over other type of style sheets. So now let's go to our project, which is HTML2. We are working on tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to design an external style sheet for a gym that offers various training and fitness classes. Here we have all of the contents, but because there is no style sheet linked to this web page, the web page is difficult to read. Allison, the owner of the gym, has an external style sheet containing style sheets that will present this page in a more pleasing 3-column layout. So now first we have to link that style sheet to this web page to change the placement of the items. But first let's take a look at the HTML of this web page to see what elements are included in this web page. Right click on home.txt, open with Notepad++. Like other web pages, it has 2 main parts: head, which includes metadata about the web page, and the body. Body is divided into 3 parts. First is the header, and then navigation pane, and then articles. article, aside, and then footer of the web page. So here we have the header of the web page. This is the title, Try and Succeed Sports Gym. This is the header. We have navigation pane. Here we have articles, and we have aside, which includes some comments from this members of the gym. And at the bottom of the page we have footer. So we have to organize them in an attractive manner, so its contents are easy to read and in a way that can attract new customers. So we have TSS layout, which has already been designed. It just determines the placement of the items on that web page. So now we can go to our HTML page, and in the metadata, or between two head elements, we can link that CSS file to our web page. Link href equals, the name of the CSS file is TSS underline layout .css, and its type is going to be style sheet. Okay, and slash, because link is a one-sided element, control save, and then I'm going to the web page and then load, refresh the web page. So it is going to change the placement of the items. Here we have on the left side we have a navigation pane. In the middle we have an article. Here we have block quotes, which is part of a side element, and at the bottom we have the footer of the web page. So now we are going to design a new CSS to change the appearance, color, background, and other items on this web page. So now first let's take a look at TSS layout. Here we have items like margin, width, max width, min width for these elements like body, body header, body nav, body article, aside, and etc. So now we have to design a new CSS to change the appearance of the web page. This CSS file is called TSS styles underline txt. Open. We have these elements. So first I'm going to add my name as the author of this CSS file, today's date, we have already discussed embedded and inline style sheets. For example, here in the HTML file we can change the layout of these items. For example, here we can define an inline style sheet for items like H1. style equals, for the heading, color equals red, and text align center. Control say S or save, and then we go to our web page and see what is going to change on this web page. So it is going to change the color of this heading to red, and it is going to put it at the center of the column. So this is one way to define a style sheet for a web page. As I mentioned before, this is a very consuming and inefficient method, because if we were to change all of these inline elements, it would take a lot of time. So this is one method. The other method, so I'm going to get rid of this part, is the embedded method. For the embedded style sheet, we need to define style tag inside the head element as a metadata. So inside the style, I'm going to define H1 or heading 1, and then I'm going to set its color to blue, and text align to center. Control save. Reload the web page. So it is going to change the color of all headings, heading 1 to blue, and place them at the center of the column. Okay. So this is the second method. But as I mentioned before, these two methods are not recommended, because they're both time consuming and inefficient. The best method is to put all of the style sheets in a separate file, in an external file, and then link that file to our main web page. So I'm going to get rid of this part, save. So it's going to return to its initial state. So now we are going to define style sheet in a separate file and then link this style sheet to our main file. This is called external style sheet. Its name is tss underline styles underline txt.css. So I'm going to link it to our main web page. Link href is going to be tss underline styles underline txt.css, and then its type is going to be style sheet. Okay. Save, and then go to the web page. Nothing is going to change right now because we have not defined any rule in this web page. So now we are going to define our rules in these parts, for example for HTML and body style, heading style, and etc. So for the HTML and body style, we are going to change, we are going to define style sheet rule. For example, we can change the background color to 27, 72% and 72%. And at the end of the command, we have to put a semicolon. Save and then refresh the page. It's going to change the background to orange. So we have already covered the colors with HSL and RGB. HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. So hue is the tint of the color, and it usually represents a direction of the color wheel. It ranges between 0 degrees and 300 degrees. 0 for red, and 120 degrees matches green, and 240 matches blue. S stands for saturation, which measures the intensity of the color and ranges between 0% for no color up to 100% for full color. Finally, we have L, which stands for lightness, which measures the brightness of the color, and it ranges between 0% for black up to 100% for white. For our current web page, for Try and Succeed Gym, the owner, Allison, wants us to use HSL color value 27, 72%, and 72% to set the background of the document to orange, and she would like the text of the home page to appear in a medium gray color on an ivory background. One way to find these triples is to run paint and then find our favorite color from that one. So I'm going to run paint, and then from this part we can find these triples: hue, saturation, illuminate. For example, let's say we are going to choose this color. Its RGB triple is going to be 0, and for its hue, saturation, and lightness is going to be 38, 139, and etc. So this way we can find the corresponding triples, HSL triples, for each color. So now we're going to define style sheets for the body as requested by the owner. Let's put the color to RGB 91, 91, and 91. Background color for the body element of the web page, ivory. And then font family, we're going to define Verdana, Geneva, and sans serif. We have defined these free fonts because if a web page or web browser doesn't support any of this, it will switch to the next item. So it will start with Verdana, and if it is unavailable on a specific web browser, it is going to choose Geneva and then sans serif. So for the heading style, save and then go to our web page and check the changes. So it is going to change the background to ivory, background of the body. Here we have the background of the entire web page. So for the heading style, I'm going to define for H1 font size to 2.2 EM. For H2, I'm going to define its font size as 1.5 EM. And for H1 and H2, we are going to set its font family to quicksand, Verdana, Geneva, and sans serif. Save, and then we will go to the web page, refresh the page, and those style sheets will change the appearance and font of these items. So now we are going to change other items. Let's change the font size of the aside item. Aside lies here on the right hand side of the web page. For aside, I'm going to define its font size as 0.8 EM, and for aside block code, we're going to set its color to RGB 232, 165, and 116. We're going to define margin 20 pixels and 5 pixel. save, and then refresh the page. It is going to change the style, font size, font color of the items on the aside and block code elements of the web page. So now let's go to the navigation list. Here we have the navigation list, which includes links to other web pages. For NAV, I'm going to set its font size to 0.8 EM, and then for navigation list and unordered list, under the navigation list we're going to define style sheet for that item, line height to 2 EM, list style uh, I'm going to define padding left to 5 pixel, save, and then go to the web page and then refresh the page. It is going to change the padding, style, and the font of this navigation pane. Okay, and this way we can make changes to other elements. So first we have to find an element, h1 and etc., and define a specific style sheet for those elements.